I want to welcome you to the Pro Mindset Podcast. The Pro Mindset Podcast is all about diving into the headspace that results in championship performance. High-performing athletes, winners, have this mental flow and have a positive headspace for their performances and success. Join me, Craig Domann, sports attorney and NFL agent, on this podcast. I will interview pro athletes, college athletes, football coaches, and sports personalities. Together, we can discover how you can get in the flow and have your own pro mindset. Today on Pro Mindset, I have Rob Ninkovich, New England Patriots, two-time Super Bowl winner, played 11 years in the NFL and walked out on his own terms. And we're going to start out today talking about what's it like on game day.
Game day is confidence, and it's a combination of your training and your practice and your belief in yourself, and it's confidence knowing that even if they call a defensive play, I mean, I don't know if I remember, I think one time we talked and I said I'm gonna be dropping this whole damn game anyway, but I had like 2 picks. It's like, I think it's the mentality of going into the game knowing no matter what, I'm still gonna make good big plays. Just if it's not if it's not rushing the quarterback, it's going to be some other way, You're
going to make something happen regardless of what your role is.
Yes.
Okay, Rob, tell everyone what your foundational principles for success were leading up to your NFL career.
I think just the values that my parents installed in me at a young age of never giving up, never quitting. So I think that's number one, never having that feeling inside that I can't get it done or I can't get the job done. Number two is confidence in yourself. So I was always confident that I could do everything that I wanted to do as long as, number three, I had the work ethic and I put forth the effort. So if you don't ever give up on something, you have the belief that you can do it, and you put in the effort to get it done, then your chances of being successful are very, very high. And when you're younger, I think a lot of younger adults or younger teenagers are very impressionable on what others will think of them. And at a certain point now that I'm older, I don't give a shit or I don't care about what people think about me. And I do believe that the younger you are, when you realize that, the more success you're going to have. And at a young age, I kind of told myself, well, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to go. And if I have to cut out certain things in my life, certain people in my life that are going to affect me and going to change the direction that I want to go, then that's what I'm going to have to do. So, young adults, young kids, teenagers, they go out and they drink and they go to parties. And that's the one thing I think is as when I look back, that was absent. When I think about college, I don't think about parties. I think about training, and I think about going to school because school didn't come easy to me. So making sure that I had the grades so I just could play football. That was my number one. I had football on the brain. That's all I thought about. I wanted to be a great football player. I knew that if I had the intangibles of understanding the concepts of the game, working out and being physically one of the stronger guys on the field, that was always going to help me and take me where I needed to be. So I think it's making that choice early and not listening to outside sources or noise, ignoring the noise or the outside world telling you what you should be doing, how you should be doing it. If you can or can't do it, that'll hot air. That's just noise. That's just people trying to bring you down. And in our society, our world, everyone loves to bring people down. So for me, I think learning those valuable lessons early really set me up to have the success that I had.
Okay, so Robbie, you went to 3 Super Bowls, should have won 3, you won 2. And most of the guys that play in the NFL don't even get to play in 1. Yep. What was the highlight of you played 11 years. What is the highlight of your career? Was it winning one of those Super Bowls? Was it winning the first one? What was your highlight?
I think the Super Bowl, yeah, that's always a huge accomplishment. I think when you can get to the Super Bowl and you can attain that, the ultimate goal, as a kid, you grow up watching the Super Bowl. We all dream of that. But I think number one would be checking off the list. And when I was a kid, I had goals written down, and one was to play in the NFL, one was to start in the NFL, another one was to be a playmaker, be a difference maker in the NFL, win a Super Bowl. And when you can count all those things off, when you can check all those off the box, I think that was one of my greatest accomplishments, looking back on everything that I had written down and I was able to check it off. So greatest accomplishment in just winning a football game, yeah, Super Bowl, my first one. Greatest accomplishment as a football player in total would probably be maximizing the God-given talents that I was given in football. We all have a certain gift from God. God gives us the ability to give him the glory in playing football, being a good person in society, giving back to the community, all those platforms that you're given as a football player. I think that I maximized all those things, and when I look back, I'm really happy and proud that I was able to do that, because I feel like God's happy with the things that I was able to do with the talents that he gave me. You know, there's nothing worse than guys that have talents that never are really utilized and never maximized and never used.
You set these goals. How old were you when you set your goals?
I have goals. It's funny, I was a freshman in high school, and I would write down things that I wanted to be next year. So I have weight. Like, I have bench press of things that as a football player you need to be able to do, and I would write them down. So I'd say 14 is when I first wrote down my goals.
And by chance, do you still have your goals somewhere at home?
I still have those. Yes, I do.
Well, I would highly recommend that you frame your goals from when you're 14 and put a check mark by all the ones that you attained and show those to your kids when they're at the age that they can understand what this is about.
Yep. I actually what I did is I would take my stickers and the things that were on my helmet and take them off and put them on a piece of construction paper and then write the goals next to them for the next year. And I have a box with all that. It's funny.
Well, I'm going to bounce around on you. Share with us, what was your best and fondest memory of Purdue, playing at Purdue?
My fondest memory, I would say early, like when I first arrived at Purdue, I had such a picture of what a Division I athlete was in my head. So I played at junior college and Division I football, Purdue, Big Ten. You know, it gives you this false reality of what a football player should be or should look like. So I was obsessed with making sure that I was strong and fast, and when I hit the ground at Purdue, I was like, I'm going to be sprinting. I'm going to make sure that when I go there, I can measure up to these great elite athletes. And one of my first memories is when I walked into Purdue, I looked at Anthony Spencer, and I was like, well, this guy's freaking big and strong, but I think being him comparable, as far as athlete, and then just building relationships, having a good friendship with Anthony Spencer and having a good relationship with Ray Edwards and Brock Spack and Joe Tiller. I think those are the things in football that you build that you can't get back. You can't ever build the relationships that you have in football in any other sport, any other outside world thing, because you're maybe the military. I compare it to the military because you're putting in so much time, blood, sweat, tears. You go through camp, you go through boot camp, so to speak, of losing your identity as a person and trying to become a team. You form a team, and when you do that, you form these relationships that are awesome. So I think that the relationships, and then just playing in a Big Ten football game. I played the year before I went to Purdue. I was playing in front of 100 people. The first game at Purdue, we played Syracuse at home. It was 60,000. I think that was my first time actually playing in front of a lot of people. That was wow, this is crazy. So it was pretty awesome. It was definitely a great stepping stone for me to test myself physically, mentally, and to get to the next level, which was the NFL.
Well, then, Robbie, you were drafted in the 5th round by Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints, and you made the active 53. What was the toughest thing when you look back at your rookie year? What was the toughest thing you had to overcome to make the 53 out of the jump?
I think it was just what people see you as, the stereotypes that go into being, a white defensive lineman going into the NFL as a 5th round pick. You are more so looked at as maybe a special teams piece, or this guy can help us on kickoff and punt team, but maybe defense, I don't think so. So for me, I think it was just turning enough heads in pass rush and one-on-one situations to where they believed that I was a guy that they could put on the field and trust enough where, okay, get him on the field, he's going to make plays. There's not going to be any liabilities here with him on the football field.
So what happened about your 3rd or 4th game running down on kickoffs for the Saints?
So unfortunately, my rookie year was cut short in the Monday night game against the Falcons. I, had a good first 2 games were great. Future was looking great. Played against the Browns and the Green Bay Packers. So we had 2 away games the first 2 games of that season in 2006. Was in some great plays, some key plays, played about 25 snaps on defense, which is a good amount for a rookie. Was the 3rd defensive end. They only had 3 active guys on the roster. So everything was looking great for me. And then we played the first home opening game in the Superdome after Katrina. It was a game. That was the Steve Gleason block punt. I was on that. It was called Pistol. That was the name of the play on our block punt. And I was out running down on a kickoff right after, I think it was a Terrence Copper reverse for a touchdown. In the previous 2 weeks, John Bonamigo, my special teams coach, said, Rob, I want you to be like one of the first guys down there. And as a young guy, you're very gullible to, yeah, all right, I'll be the first one down there. So I can remember that all week, that full week preparing for the Falcons. I was trying to get off with Gleason. I was trying to run with Steve, who was faster than me. And in that game, it was a deep kick right. The ball was landed on like the 1 yard line right by the pylon. So I was running to the ball, and the return for them was I'd probably say left alley wedge. So the wedge was coming to me, and I was trying to get to the ball before the wedge. And when I got hit by the wedge, I wasn't kind of ready for it. I tried to brace myself with my right leg. And when that happened, I'd hit and brace at the same time and hurt my knee, which was an ACL injury. It took me out of my first rookie season, took me out for the rest of the year. And that was it. That was the start of my battle to get back onto an active roster. It took me about 3 years after that to be a substantial lock on a roster.
It did. So you come back your 2nd season, and the biggest obstacle you got to overcome is now you're damaged goods, and you're coming off an ACL, and you obviously showed flashes of excellence, or you wouldn't have made the 53 in the first place, your rookie year. And so your hugest accomplishment and goal was, put yourself back where you were, be on the 53 again and show them that you can play. And I can remember being in Indianapolis. It was the Thursday night, opening night game, and I believe it was after the Colts Super Bowl or something, and that's why they were hosting it.
Yep.
And I get a call from the general manager, and he says that the Saints were letting you go. And this was like, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. And I was like, holy smokes, dude. I said, why are they cutting him? I'm thinking in the back of my head, it's not Robbie to do this, but did he do something he shouldn't have did? Because there's like makes no sense. You don't fly from New Orleans to Indy, being on the traveling roster and then get let go on game day. So I asked the general manager what's up, and he said, I don't know. I'll talk to Sean, Coach Payton, and I'll get back to you. Well, he called me back 10 minutes later and said that they wanted to activate a 4th quarterback. Yeah. And I'm like, holy smokes, dude. That's stupid. So I knew you had a bunch of family and your mom and dad and your sis driving down I-65 when you made the call to your sis. But why don't you share for the audience how your dad responded when your sister finally told him what was up?
Well, there's a nickname for him that we called him after that. We called him Mallard. Mallard. Because when he got the news, he said, get me off the interstate, and he instantly went to a gas station, ripped off his Saints shirt and threw it in the dumpster in the gas station, and bought a Mallard duck, just like straight up duck t-shirt from the gas station, and proceeded to go home after that game and throw every Saint piece of item that he had off the balcony of the house and threw it all away and said, F the Saints. So that was a tough time for me because I had come back from my ACL. But it was a tough time, but a valuable lesson in life for me, that once you hit a certain age, everything is all business. And sometimes business is good, sometimes business is bad. And if you are not a starter or a valuable piece to a team, you're expendable. And at that time, I was coming back from my ACL. I had unfortunately been hurt. My other knee was hurt because I hurt my MCL in training camp. They had this kid, Andy Alleman. I think he was drafted in the third round by the Saints. Got thrown and landed on my knee and tore my MCL. I think the hardest lesson for me in that one was sometimes you can't trust everybody. And I had a discussion with Sean Payton and some of the guys with the Saints organization, and they really needed me to practice for the Thursday game. They needed extra bodies on practice, so I did what I could. I put a brace on and I taped myself up, and it might not have been 100%, but I did it because that's the type of person I am. Whatever I got to do to help the team, I'll do it. So when they cut me that time, it was shocking to me. I literally just at breakfast, and they said, we're cutting you. So then I was like, all right, well, they cut me. Now what do I do? So I go home with you guys? What's going on? And then you go through the waiver process, and you can be picked up by anybody. So I tried to just not put myself in a real stressful position and just say, okay, well, this is out of my hands. I can't control anything right now. When I have the next opportunity to control something, then I guess I'll try and do that the best that I can. So it was upsetting. It was very frustrating for me, but that's life. Sometimes you can't control certain things.
Well, the blessing in disguise is you got picked up by the Miami Dolphins the next day, off waivers. And you go down to Miami, and they're 0-14 to start the year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was a terrible year.
Terrible
I don't know if it
year.
was a blessing. I don't know if it was a blessing.
No, well, it was a blessing because how things turned out. Every place you went in your journey contributed to success, your ultimate success.
Yeah.
So you go down to Miami, and you're playing for a brand new NFL rookie head coach, Cam Cameron, and you guys are 0-14. You end up going 1-15. I happened to be at the game where you guys won. You beat the Ravens in overtime, if I'm not mistaken. And the
Greg Camarillo did a slant for a touchdown by Cleo Lemon. Got out of the history books.
Got out of the history books, being the first franchise to win them all and lose them all. Okay?
Yep.
Right? And so the fans were going absolutely nuts after the game, running around the concourse of the stadium. And then I remember having a conversation with you after the season, because I do with all my guys, which is, hey, make sure when you have your exit interview, you ask your coach, like, hey, how am I doing? What can I do to get better? How do you see me in the future? What kind of role can I play for your organization? And would you mind sharing with everyone what the one and done, because Cam Cameron got fired a few days after he had his conversation with you, what he shared with you on that day?
Well, I wanted to have an opportunity to play, and look, in the NFL, there is some certain things that happen that make certain teams never get over the hump, and they always lose, and they're never going to be a winning team because of the way that they're run or the way that things happen. And in that discussion, I wanted to know simply what do I need to do to play? And his response was, well, we have the guys that we had on the team were what we thought our best options were at winning. And for me, that was a really dumb response because they didn't win any games. So I knew at that point that I probably wasn't going to work out unless that whole staff was gone. And my only saving grace was with the GM at the time. That he was the one that wanted me there, saw the potential in me, and he was the one that would tell me, got to be patient. I'm the one that wants you here. I saw the things in you that could be potentially good, and you just got to be patient. And then sure enough, everybody got fired. So GM, head coach, everybody got fired. So at that particular point, I really had no idea who was going to be there, what type of system was coming in. And that's when they hired Parcells and Sperano. So Bill Parcells came in as like the director. You had Sperano come in as the head coach, and that was kind of maybe not the best thing for me as a outside linebacker, because Bill Parcells walked up to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and said, "You're the Ninkovich kid from Purdue. I remember you," because he was with Dallas when I was coming out. He compared me to Brewski. He said, "You're an inside linebacker," and that was the start to another journey. And
oh my goodness, yeah. So they went from 4-3 to 3-4, I believe.
Yeah.
And they moved you to Mike Backer, one of the Mike Backers.
So that was great. That whole situation was awesome. I had a great training camp, was an outside linebacker, did really well at outside linebacker, had led the team in sacks, thought I had a good chance of making the team, got called into Parcells' office, and he said, I think you would be a great inside linebacker. As far as height and weight, you don't look as like an outside linebacker in the scheme. So what I'm going to give you is an opportunity to stick around here for 11 weeks with your full salary on practice squad. So you're going to make what you're going to make as an active player, but you're on the practice squad. But this is a one-time thing. If you shake my hand now, we'll honor it. If not, you're cut. So I said, all right, well, I'll do this. I will learn how to play inside linebacker. Waited. They brought me up to play against the Raiders. Jeff Ireland was actually the GM at the time.
Yep.
After the game, I think I ran down on kickoff. Nothing crazy. After the game that next week, they called me in the office. He said they were looking for a bigger spark on special teams, and compared me to, he said, I thought you'd be more like a Larry Izzo type. So he compared me to Larry Izzo. I instantly in my head thought to myself, I said, I'm 6'3", 260. Larry Izzo's a different guy.
Yeah, he's like 5'11".
Yeah, great football player, but, I'm not that. So you could compare me to Larry Izzo, but not in that particular instance. I didn't think that Larry Izzo, that was a good comparison, because, Larry had played a very long time in the NFL, was a big standout on special teams, but I was a completely different body type, different player. At that point, they released me, and they were like, you're going to go back on the practice squad, and then I was kind of fed up with it. I was done. I got a call from the Saints. They said, hey, we're interested. We need a defensive end. We have a couple guys, that was in Will Smith and Charles Grant, the Star Caps dietary supplement issue. They were going to be suspended for the end of the year. So I said, yeah, I'm gone. I wanted to go because I knew I could get my credited season. That would help towards my pension and all that stuff. So I didn't even tell the Dolphins. I didn't give them an option to bring me back up. I just left. I didn't tell anybody. So when I went back to New Orleans, there was a 54-man exempt clause put in because they pushed the suspension of Will and Charles to the next season. So they didn't have to serve the suspension, so they were available to play. So I was kind of like the guy that was messed up in that deal, because I was just left the team for another team, and then the team that signed me didn't need me. So they put me on an exempt list, which wasn't awesome. I didn't play that year, but at least I got my credited season.
Well, here's what I remember in year 3 when the Dolphins activated you for that one game and they let you go. I called Jeff Ireland to ask him how you did, and he said you didn't show enough.
Yeah.
And I'd already talked to you to find out you ran down on like 3 kickoffs and 2 of them were touchbacks or something like that. It was like, you really didn't get a chance.
Yeah.
And so I called bullshit out with Jeff. I was like, come on, dude, you didn't give this guy a real shot. And then you went to New Orleans and you got caught up in that situation, but at least you were getting a credited season, being an active roster and all that stuff. And then going into year 4, you show up for OTAs, and you're one of your best friends, Sean Payton, had a talk with you. What happened in that conversation?
Yeah, well, in that offseason, they had, given Bobby McRae a big contract he was from Jacksonville, big defensive end, 6'6", looked great, looked the part. They had Will Smith, first-round pick. They had Charles Grant, first-round pick, big contracts. They had Jeff Charleston, who was like a special teamer, good kid, loved Jeff. But when I was coming in OTAs and minicamp, like off-season, I was just like, all right, well, I'm ready to just compete. I don't care. I can compete against the best of them, all of them. And we were going. I remember I was at practice, and Sean walked up to me, and he said, the only chance you have of making this roster is as our long snapper. And I remember looking at him like, this guy's serious. Like, really thinks that I can that's all I have. That's my option here. So I looked at him and I said, well, if that's my only opportunity, I'll take the challenge, and went right into snapping every day. I would snap like 100 footballs a day, all filmed, because they had Kevin Hauser at the time, and that was when the whole movie tax credit scandal happened, unfortunately, to Kevin. He had a few coaches and some players' money invested, and the money disappeared. So then they directly took that out on him, and he was out of there. You knew they were going to cut him. So, for me, I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just my only opportunity now. It's been about 3 years. It's my 4th season. I hadn't played since 2001 to make the roster. So did everything that I could, continue to train as if I was going to play football. I didn't stop training and running and doing everything that as a defensive player would do. So I trained like I was going to play defense. First day of training camp, I remember I reported to camp, and right before I even hit the door, they said, hey, Sean wants to speak to you. So I knew right then and there, I said, this isn't going to be great.
Well, they had just signed Jason Kyle.
They had just signed Jason.
For Carolina Panthers for like 10, 11 years. And he was a seasoned vet, played at Arizona State. And I don't know why Carolina didn't keep him, because he's one of the best long snappers in the league at the time. I just think that, sometimes you just want to change players, and they were just kind of looking to go in a different direction. But now New Orleans had him, and so they kicked you to the curb because they didn't want to take up an extra roster spot for 2 long snappers in camp.
Yeah. So they cut me. I looked at Sean, and I said, well, you didn't know about this a week ago? Because at this point, rosters are set, and people kind of already have their list of guys that they think are going to be on their team, on the roster for camp. And he said, well, we didn't know 2 weeks ago that we were going to do this move. So for me, I was really angry at that point. I was motivated and ready to do what I wanted to. I was able to control myself, and then the fate struck again, and the next day I was contacted by the Patriots, and that's when my career took off.
Absolutely. No. So what happened was they brought you in for a tryout. When guys come in for tryouts, 1 in 20 chance they'll sign them. They signed you. So what was your attitude and what was your perspective once you were going to practice and playing in the preseason for New England?
Well, I knew that I had to turn heads. I had to get attention from the coaches and people that are scouting, and the best way to do that is to get to the quarterback, win your one-on-ones, play fast, play on special teams. I didn't know the playbook at the time, but when I first arrived there, Matty P was my position coach. Matty Patriot was my position coach. I'm playing next to Teddy Bruschi, like these guys that are Patriot Hall of Famers, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, wow, I'm in New England. I know that if I can just show value to the Patriots and Bill Belichick, he says it every year, that he doesn't care who you are, where you're from, your contract status. If you can help win football games, you'll be here on the team. I remember just saying to myself, I have to just turn heads, and I have to show them that I'm a pass rusher, because a pass rusher, if you can get to the quarterback, you're valuable. So for me, it was going against the best competition if you go against the best and you beat the best, that's when you earn respect and you have people look at you and say, well, look at this guy. Because anytime you go against the third string tackle and you don't win, then there's something wrong. So if I was a starting caliber defensive player going against a third string or a backup tackle, there's no way that one single rep should go his way. I should win every single time. So for me, it was, I'm going to go against the best guys. I'm going to go against Matt Light. I'm going to go against the starters. I'm going to beat those guys. And if I can beat those guys, then I'll start turning heads and people will start recognizing me and the things that I'm doing.
Well, this is what I remember. I think it was roughly after the third preseason game. I got a call from you, and you said, hey, this is what went down after the game.
Well, early in camp, one of the first days in training camp, it was actually the first day at one-on-ones. I was nobody knew who I was. I just came onto the field. They're already a week into training camp, so I was the new guy, which at wearing 45. Like, nobody respects the new guy until you prove yourself. So they were doing one-on-one pass rush, one-on-ones, and I just went against Matt Light, and I knew, like, look, this guy's Purdue Boilermaker, good football player, played a long time, Pro Bowler, multi-ring Super Bowl champion, blindside, Tom Brady's side tackle. If I can beat him, it'll be good for me. So I go against Matt, beat him. Dante Scarnecchia is the offensive line coach, freaks out, like, what the heck is that? Mad at Matt, says, let's do it again. And pass rush it's a chess match. It's I show you one thing, you think one thing, I do the next thing, and then it's a dance going back and forth on how you change things up. So the first rush, I beat him on the edge. So I figure, okay, he's going to probably set me. He's going to try and jump the set line. I do an inside move, clean, beat him twice. Scarnecchia gets really mad, says, all right, let's do this again, Light. So then you beat a guy with speed, you beat a guy with power. What's the next thing out of the pass
Bull rush, baby.
Is the bull rush. So you go with speed, get the guy on his heels, and then you stick your side foot in the ground, and you go right at him, and you try and run him over. And he almost hit the ground. He fell, went backwards, arms fell, and just went right past him. So I beat him 3 times in a row, and Bill, after these practices, has high and low lights. He highlighted me, and he said, look, this guy's been here one day. This is what we want. This is what we're looking for in pass rush. This is what we want. And he said, by the time we're done with him, he won't know what he's doing. I still, to this day, don't get what that meant. But I think he was trying to say, by the time we get into his head with all the things that we teach here, he won't be doing these things. But then fast forward into the postseason, I was really high motor, trying to get to every ball, trying to get to every single play, and I had a good preseason. His point out to everybody was with effort, and if you play with this type of effort, you will make a team. So you will make a roster if you play like this. I just told myself, I don't care what the call is. I don't care where I'm at on the field. I'm going to make a play. I'm going to get to the ball. I'm going to be like an Energizer bunny, never stop. That was, okay, I need to play on special teams. I understood my role. And if you can do that, then they try to overload you. They try to put so much on the plate to see, well, what can this guy handle? And there was a point in time where I was on kickoff return, punt return, and playing on every snap on defense. And after the season was over, I think it was after 2011, Bill walked up to me and said, he doesn't get many compliments, but he said, you had a full plate and you did really well. And I just remember thinking to myself, all right, that's good. So
pay me, coach, pay me.
Yeah, right. And he said, we're not going to pay you, but you're going to play a lot. So
yeah, exactly. So what's the Patriot way? What's the Patriot mindset? Playing there 8 years and going to the Super Bowl 3 times and winning the division every year. Did you guys win the division every year?
Yep, I won every year I played.
You won the division every single year you were on that team.
Every single year. Yep.
What is your mindset and what's the Patriot way?
My mindset is to be the best football player that I could possibly be, and the Patriot way is how can I be the best football player I can possibly be for my team. And when you have a group of guys that have that same collective mentality of I'm not thinking about my contract situation, I'm not thinking about anything beyond me being a great football player, I'm not thinking about the end of the season, I'm going to try and work on myself and what is my role, and then you take that role and you embrace your role. And when you have a collective team of guys who understand their roles and they embrace their roles and they love each other and they come together as a team, that's when special things happen. And I was lucky enough to be on special teams where guys were accountable, they knew their role, they played for one another, and I can remember all the bad plays. On a good team, you don't think about your great plays. You think about what plays you need to work on to be a better player. And when you have a team full of guys that just want to play better and just play for the guy next to them, that's when special things happen.
Amen. That's how you win championships.
Yep.
There's a lot of teams in the NFL have got great players and they don't win. They can't win in the playoffs. They can't even get to the playoffs.
I mean, look at some of the teams right now with loaded rosters. There's no way the Cleveland Browns or the Dallas Cowboys should be underachieving the way that they are with the talent that is on that roster. But it comes down to where your mind is. What exterior or factors come into play when you have expectations and not being able to manage those expectations and hype of outside media fueling the hype. And at the end of the day, you got to play 16 games. And if you can put it together and win, it's not the most talented team that wins. It's the most hardworking, detail-oriented, mistake-free football team that wins games.
Bill Belichick's a hell of a coach. What can you say about Belichick that, I mean, everybody knows he's a master of psychology. He does a lot of situational football. He is very detailed. He wants everybody to be, fold into the Patriot culture and not have a bunch of individuals. What do people, that you can talk about, what can you say about him that people don't know about him?
Well, I think, the one thing that you respect is the consistency. He's very consistent. He's not changing. So Bill's not going to change for a player. He's not changed for anybody. He's going to be very consistent in his evaluations and honest opinions of what he sees. And then, outside of football, there's Bill Belichick, who he's got a sense of humor. He does smile. He does laugh. He enjoys football, but that is his true love. His passion is football. He wants to talk football. He wants to dive into scheme and understanding scheme and figuring out different things and defense. He loves everything about football. So that he lives, breathes, eats football. That's all he does is football, and you respect that. So there's not another football person that I respect more than Bill. I think he's a tremendous coach. He gave me an opportunity to play football and play for a long time, win Super Bowls. Yes, would I have liked to have made more money? Of course, but at the end of the day, when you play at championship level in an organization that has won for a very long time, you figure out quickly that there are perks to your post-career playing that help you along the way with playing for the Patriots. I tell you, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm at right now if I was playing for Cleveland Browns or Cincinnati Bengals. I can guarantee I wouldn't be on ESPN and doing the commentating and the things that I'm doing.
So one of the things that a lot of players don't appreciate when they're in the NFL is when you play for a championship team in a city and an area that appreciates champions, what are the opportunities that you've gotten in the Boston area that you might not have gotten if you were somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the market of Boston or New York or some of these bigger cities, there's a lot more opportunity when you're done playing football.
So you're working at ESPN, on Thursdays and Fridays. I've been all over the country this fall, and every time I look up, it's Rob Ninkovich on ESPN talking about something or somebody or some team or some coach. And you've got a national platform being with ESPN. What's been the most rewarding and most challenging things of being in that limelight?
Well, I think the challenge is not everyone loves the Patriots, right? So you're going to have your people that don't like me just because of the fact that I played for the Patriots. That's fine. I get that.
But
and
you don't care if people like you.
I don't care.
You don't care what people say.
I don't care what people say, but
Yeah.
I think a challenge would be, we live in a world today where every single thing you say is scrutinized and can be blown out of proportion or blown into things that you're not meaning to try and make it. So I think the challenge is you have to be fair. You have to be smart in everything that you say, especially with certain topics that are brought up, and that's a challenge. But I think the rewarding part is I'm still involved in the games where I watch games, and I have to watch the game as if I was still playing, because I want to be fair and I want to talk about the players because I know how hard it is, and I don't want to be unfair on certain people based on not understanding the situation or what the game was or what the certain player had to try and do. I'll never say just. That's a lesson I learned a long time ago, because if you could just tackle them or just catch the ball or just throw it, everyone who says it would be in the NFL, they'd be in the Hall of Fame. So, for me, I try to break it down into simple, why did this happen? How does it happen? What do you do moving forward? What is this team? What do they need to do to be better? And what has happened to them? Why are they not in the place where they should be? So that's kind of how I take it. I take it as an ex-football player that knows how hard football actually is. It's not easy. So I'm never going to just completely throw someone under the bus or say, why did they just do this? Because tackling Gurley in the open space, open field is very hard,
No doubt. And you're in some respects you're like a coach or a consultant without having to put in the hours that coaches put in.
Yes. Coaching is definitely something that could potentially, I think about it, but then I think about the time that I wouldn't be with my kids, and a lot of the thoughts in my head on do I want to continue to play football were basically all derived from my kids, because once you have kids, you start thinking about long-term stuff. How long do I want to play football? Do I want to risk my health? Because I need to be around for these little guys, and I have 3, so they keep me busy, and I love it. I love being a dad. I think the greatest accomplishment that I have done as a person, as a man, has been being a father. I think it's been one of the most rewarding things that I have done in my life.
Give everybody the ages of your kids. You have a daughter?
Yes. So I have a 6-year-old girl. I have a 3-year-old boy, and I have a 5-month-old boy as well. So I have my oldest is a girl and then twice. So it's not
girl, boy, boy. So you did the Domann plan, because we went girl, boy, boy as well.
Yep. It's pretty fun. I love it. I think I love being a dad and watching my kids more than I did playing football, honestly.
Robbie, what was the most surreal part of coming back from the Super Bowl against the Falcons, which ultimately, was that your last NFL game?
Yep, that was my last game. Yep,
that was your last game. So you guys are losing 28-3 at one point. What was going through your head, and what was the environment like, and the mojo like on your sidelines?
Well, honestly, when you're in that game, you just don't want to have such a poor performance like that, because it's embarrassing. It's a Super Bowl, everyone's watching. So I think everybody, when we walked into the locker room, we were more so disappointed that we were performing at a level that we knew was not us. That wasn't what we had been about. That wasn't the way we wanted to play that game. So I think it was just a collective confidence that if we can get things back in order, back on track, we just got to take it one play at a time and not start thinking about the outcome of this thing. I think before we played the Seahawks, Bill had given the team a speech the night before the game, and it resonated with me because when we lost to the Giants in Indianapolis in 2012, I remember in that game we were up, and I remember looking at the scoreboard and saying to myself, we're going to do this. We're going to win this game. And then, sure enough, we lose. And when we were playing Seattle, Bill had said, at any point in this game, if you start to think about the outcome or the score, I want you to get yourself right back into the moment of where you're at, what you're supposed to do, what your job is, and focus on doing your job and winning your down. If you can win your down, which is every single snap, you go into the snap and you think, I'm going to win this down. I'm going to beat the guy across from me. I'm going to do my job. Then everything takes care of itself. When you start to think about the outcome of things before the job is done, that's when things can start to go the wrong way. So for me, and for that Seattle game, I just told myself I'm going to play my heart out. I'm going to do everything I can to win this football game, and we did. And then with the Falcons game, at halftime, everybody just made the commitment to each other. Let's go out here, try and put together a game, a second half that is respectable, because in the first half it was disrespectful. We were putting on a disrespectful showing of what we were.
Well, I agree that when you start looking at the outcome and you start watching the scoreboard, it impacts how you play. When you're behind, you play stressed out and tight, and when you're way ahead, you start coasting, and then you don't make the plays you should make. So the guys that can focus on just making the play, live in the moment, win the play, and then the clock hits zero. The fat lady starts singing. Most of the time you're going to be successful because you put together 55, 60, 70 good plays.
Yep. So okay. I think there's a very easy way to manage if you had a good or a bad game. This is my own technique, and if I was ever a coach, this is how I would do it. You take every snap you're in the game. If you're in the game 50 snaps, you just count good and bad. You have winning plays and you have losing plays. If you win more snaps than you lose, you have a winning performance. If you lose more snaps, you're probably going to lose a game. So, when I was graded tape, it was easy for me to say that was a winning play, that was a losing play. I lost, I won. So then you just tally it up, and you want to have more wins than losses. And if you can do that, then you have a good game. Then you have a respectable game.
Absolutely. Okay, Robbie, you have your NFL career in your rearview mirror. You now have the luxury of being a ESPN broadcaster that really you're a talking head now. You're evaluating and commentating about other players and their performances. What could you, with the benefit of those two roles, being an 11-year pro, winning a couple Super Bowls, now being a commentator, what would you tell your 22-year-old self now that you couldn't tell yourself when you were leaving Purdue because you didn't know?
Trust the process, that God has a plan for everybody. And sometimes when you're younger, you feel like you can control certain things, but that's really just God testing your will and your mental toughness. And he wants to see, how do you respond to certain situations? And I think as a 22-year-old, I might have been a little bit more, I've been able to do this on my own, and I was able to work hard and get to this spot where in reality, as I sit here as a retired football player, that was God's path for me, was to go to New Orleans and find my wife, get injured, have the trials and tribulations, the rough seas to get to where I was going. And then now I have 3 kids, and there's always going to be some type of obstacle. How you respond to it, it's the strength that you carry on through those obstacles that really makes or breaks the character of what you are as a person. So for me, I would probably tell myself at 22, like, look, there's things that are going to happen, but that's God's plan for you. So buckle up, buddy.
Put on your seatbelt. It's coming.
Yep.
Well, Rob Ninkovich, you have a tremendous reputation and legacy with the Patriots, and you've carried on the tradition of number 50 on the defensive side of the ball. And it was a pleasure working with you. I'm so proud of you and everything that you've accomplished. most importantly, I'm proud of just the way you handled your career and your post-career with grace. And I think the thing that epitomizes Rob Ninkovich almost more than anything is your retirement ceremony when Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, and all your teammates are there, and you've got your beautiful wife, Paige, and everybody is honoring you. And what people don't realize about the NFL is that most of the time when guys retire, they just say, hey, bro, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out.
Yeah.
And in the history of the New England Patriots and that franchise and all the successes they've had, you played a very vital role in that. And I just commend you and wish you nothing but continued success.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate your mentorship over the years, and sometimes the father-like figure that you've been for me to, as a younger athlete, you go through struggles that you need to talk to somebody, and you're always there for me. So I really appreciate that.
All right, man. Have a great weekend. I appreciate it, Rob.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Pro Mindset. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. 5 stars, of course. You can follow us on our website, promindsetpodcast.com, or on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pro Mindset Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you the next time.
Leftovers. Or the DMV.
Number 97.
Or house cleaning. Or
Chumba Casino always brings the fun. Play over 100 different games online for free from anywhere. You could redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. Live the Chumba life. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.